Okay, I think we've got everybody in place. Good morning, everybody. The Kansas Constitution vests in the governor the duty to appoint Supreme Court justices from one of three nominees submitted by an independent nominating commission. As governor, there are few decisions I make that are as important as appointing a Supreme Court justice. Our Supreme Court and the judiciary it leads make decisions about life and death. They interpret our laws, they safeguard our liberties, and they ensure that justice is done. Supreme Court justices must be experienced in many areas of the law. They must be talented legal thinkers. They must be ready for the administrative duties justices perform as they oversee the rest of the judicial branch. And they must have strong character to guide them in their important work. Alexander Hamilton wrote, "There can be but few who will have sufficient skill in the laws to qualify them for the stations of judges. The number must be still smaller of those who unite the requisite integrity with the requisite knowledge." Finding someone with the right integrity and knowledge is difficult enough, but justices on the Kansas Supreme Court must also bring something of Kansas with them to the bench, something that reflects the values that makes Kansas unique. Kansans value humility, common sense, expertise, and perhaps most importantly, empathy. Kansans need for their public officials to be able to understand the struggles and challenges that everyday Kansans face. Empathy is especially important when it comes to our judges. Most Kansans, at one time or another, will encounter our judicial system. It could be when getting married, resolving a business dispute, dealing with financial matters after the death of a relative, could be as a witness or as a defendant charged with a crime, or as a victim seeking justice. When Kansans come to court, they deserve a judge who can see the world through the eyes of those appearing before them. The capacity for empathy may not be something you can learn in law school or by reading statutes and court opinions, but it is something you can develop during a career of service and caring for others. The Supreme Court Nominating Commission sent three highly qualified nominees to consider. The Nominating Commission undertook a public and thoughtful process to review the applications of 19 applicants from around the state. Today is the culmination of the Commission's hard work, and I thank them for their service to our state. Today, I'm appointing Evelyn Wilson, current Chief Judge of the 3rd Judicial District, to the Kansas Supreme Court. Judge Wilson stood out from the field of candidates for her experience, her character, and her commitment to Kansas. She grew up in rural Kansas in Smith Center and attended Bethany College in Lindsborg, graduating magna cum laude with a degree in business with a concentration in economics. She went to law school at Washburn and practiced law for years in the rural town of Oberlin, Kansas. She then came to Topeka and quickly found success in the law, becoming first a partner and then the managing partner of her law firm. In 2004, Governor Sebelius appointed Judge Wilson to the district court. In 2014, Chief Justice Nuss named her Chief Judge in Shawnee County. All along the way, Judge Wilson has shown the kind of common sense, intellect, and personal skills that define our best jurists. She knows what it's like to practice in a small, rural community where lawyers get experience in a wide variety of legal issues. She also knows what it's like to practice here in Shawnee County, with opportunities to dig deep into complicated areas of the law. And as a district judge, she's brought all that experience to bear on the legal issues facing one of the busiest district courts in the state for the last 15 years. Now it's time for her next chapter in service to our state. Judge Wilson will serve our state well on the Supreme Court. I know this because she has more than just the right legal experience and the right judicial demeanor. She brings something quintessentially Kansan to our highest court. She's never shied away from challenge or responsibility. In a state with a rural tradition and a diversified economy, she knows the struggles of both the family farmer and the corporate board of directors. And in a time of immense challenges in our criminal justice system, she has spent the last 15 years tackling those issues on the front lines and being a respected leader in the judicial branch. Now, Hamilton was right. There are few who have the right combination of knowledge and integrity to qualify them for the station of judge. Kansans deserve nothing less for their Supreme Court. Judge Wilson has shown she is the right person for this high station, and I am proud to appoint her to the Kansas Supreme Court. Judge.
Thank you, Governor Kelly, for the introduction. I am humbled and honored by the trust Governor Kelly and the Supreme Court Nominating Commission have put in me. I grew up in rural Kansas. I started my career in Oberlin, where I learned the law on the job, in the courtroom. And I've had the privilege of serving Shawnee County on the district court for 15 years. An impressive group of applicants sought this position, and I am gratified to know that the governor and the nominating commission valued the experience and temperament I can bring to the court. The Kansas Supreme Court is not just our state's highest court. It is not just the administrative head of our state's court system. The judiciary is duty-bound to be an independent, co-equal branch of our state government. Our courts must ensure that the law is followed in every case, and that we honor and respect the legal rights of each person in our courts. I pledge to work every day to meet that solemn responsibility. I look forward to this new challenge and to working with 6 brilliant and dedicated Supreme Court colleagues to address the difficult and important legal issues that affect our state. Thank you.
Was that a factor at all, and what do you think of that criticism? I guess obviously it didn't deter you from applying.
John, I think you've known me long enough to know that, particularly as governor, that my appointments are based on qualifications. I don't take into account popularity. I really do take into account whether they are fit to do the job. And it's my sense that Judge Wilson is more than qualified to fill this role.
For either you, Governor, or the new justice, do you see this pick making any ideological shift on the court?
Why don't I take that one? You know, you might be surprised to hear that ideology was really not part of the conversation with any of the nominees. You know, we really were looking for judicial temperament, experience, and their ability to work with the other justices to render justice for Kansans.
I'm curious, since you're coming from such a busy district court, how is that going to, at least early on in your time on the court, will you be having to recuse from a large number of cases that come up from the Shawnee County district, or I don't know how you plan to approach that, or whether that would be an issue?
Well, that's something that I would just have to look at on a case-by-case basis. And I really can't tell you. I don't expect that to be a problem very often.
Justice, how would you describe your judicial temperament?
I believe I'm a calm person and I am thoughtful. I believe that I will be able to contribute to the court from my experiences as a lawyer for 19 years in many areas of the law and presiding over many, many cases during my 15 years as a judge. And so I believe I can bring that perspective to the court.
Governor, to what extent did you evaluate the nominating commission's actual votes? The other two candidates were backed by your predecessor's nominees to the nominating commission. Did you evaluate those votes on the nominating commission and helping to guide your decision?
No. What I did was just take the three people that they forwarded to us, interview each, and then make the decision based upon who I thought was the most qualified out of that pool.
Judge Wilson, you were asked about your judicial temperament. How would you describe your judicial philosophy in this age where people talk about being originalists and textualists and whatnot?
Well, over the course of my career, I learned that I must look at each and every case as an individual case. It's the most important case that is before the court to those people who are before the court. I look at what the law is, what it has been, the importance of what those people who have looked at this before have looked at and what they have thought about those things. I look at the facts and the law that applies, and then I try to do justice within the parameters of the law and the facts before me.
You know, if I could respond to those two questions about temperament. Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out with Judge Wilson is the fact that she has spent 15 years working in a relatively political bubble and rendering decisions within that context. And you know, it was. I lived here, and I watched the number of times that pressure was put on the courts to rule in a certain way, to favor one ideology over another. Judge Wilson doesn't do that. You know, she has sort of a wall around her so that when she's looking at something, she's looking at it through the eyes of a lawyer, not through the eyes of a politician. I think that will be an extraordinarily good trait to have on the Supreme Court.
To be fair, I think I should ask her husband the question I asked you, Mike.
John, he's not open for questions.
One more question?
Judge, did the Supreme Court get it right in the Hodes case?
Well, I cannot talk about a case that's pending before the court, and so I have no comment to that.
Thanks, guys.